Growing concern tonight across Los Angeles about threats of massive ICE raids targeting undocumented immigrants that could begin at any moment. The aggressive sweep was supposed to take place by the end of the month, but ICE isn't commenting on the status of the raids.
Meantime, community leaders and advocates are reaching out to immigrants to make sure they know their rights. KTLA's Carlos Salcedo is live in Panorama City with the latest. Carlos?
Mike and Cher, we've seen more and more of these community organizations band together amid a crackdown on illegal immigration. Now they fear these large-scale raids, mass deportations, similar to what we've seen in other parts of the country. Tonight, they're reminding undocumented immigrants that they have rights.
Okay, to defend those rights.
Immigrant rights activists have been hitting the streets, engaging with people like at this Van Nuys strip mall, informing them of their rights if approached by ICE agents.
So we're trying to tell people, we both have both English and Spanish, to organize in their communities to kick out ICE.
And that's what one of these community groups says it did on Sunday, interfering with two ICE activities.
Yesterday, we had more than 150 members of our coalition combing through the streets of Los Angeles looking for any ICE activity. Our members alerted the community using megaphones, and they also denounced the ICE for being there and asked them to leave.
This Alhambra parking lot is where activists believe they saw ICE agents staging early in the morning, saying they deterred any enforcement action by using megaphones.
We know that there's critics who will not be happy with what we're doing, but we say, you know what, our task is to defend families and not let people become separated.
The enhanced community patrols come as the Trump administration ramps up its crackdown on illegal immigration. Over the weekend, President Trump touted his hardline stance at the Conservative Political Action Conference.
Over the past few weeks, we've begun the largest deportation operation in American history.
An ICE spokesperson told KTLA, quote, "Due to our operational tempo and the increased interest in our agency, we're not able to research and respond to rumors or specifics of routine daily operations." Now, they did point to their social media showing the recent arrest of an undocumented gang member from Guatemala they say has a conviction of assault with a deadly weapon. White House officials say they're only targeting those with violent criminal records.
Although that's the narrative, people are getting caught in the crossfire. People who are not criminals.
And organizers say they will continue to patrol the streets of Los Angeles, especially here in the Valley, to encourage those who are undocumented to know their rights. We're live tonight in Panorama City.
Be sure to be looking skywards on Friday night because you are in for a treat. All 7 of the other planets in our solar system are going to be appearing in the night sky at the same time. It's known as a great planetary alignment. Rebecca Allen is an astronomer at Swinburne University and told us what we can expect.
Well, this year we've already been treated to several of the major planets in the night sky at the same time. And at the end of this week, we'll have an even rarer treat when Mercury joins the planet parade, meaning all 7 of the great planets will be visible in the night sky at the same time. Most of them actually even visible with the naked eye. So you will want to go out shortly after sunset because Saturn, Mercury, and Venus are all very close to the sun right now, while Jupiter and Mars are further to the east. And so to capture all of them in this short window, I really recommend going out just after sunset. In order to see all of the planets in the night sky at the same time is quite rare. We only see this kind of alignment once a decade or so, but to actually see them in the specific order they're in the night sky is more like something that would happen every 100 years or so. And furthermore, we actually don't have the full moon, including our view of any of the planets at the end of the week. So we actually have a dark sky as well. In most of the world, will be able to see this unless you're at the very, very furthest north latitudes. You'll be able to be treated to this show. So again, you really want a clear view of the western horizon and try to go out just after sunset and try to see how many planets you can see. Of course, take your binoculars out for Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, but you should be able to spot Venus pretty quickly. And then from there, jump to the constellation Orion, where Jupiter will be hanging out near Betelgeuse and the bright star Aldebaran, and then you should be able to find Mars after that. So I really encourage everyone. It's a great family activity because hopefully the kiddos won't be in bed yet.
And hopefully there will be clear skies, fingers crossed.
With Mumbai scorching at maximum temperature levels exceeding the normal range, the Indian Met Department has issued a heat wave alert for 25th and 26th of February for Mumbai. Now, the alert has been sounded for Mumbai, Thane, Ratnagiri and Raigad districts in Maharashtra. Mumbai on Monday recorded the highest maximum temperature in the past 5 years in February. The IMD's Santa Cruz Observatory recorded a day temperature of about 38.4 degrees Celsius, which is 6.4 degrees above normal. Now, before this, the highest day temperature in February was recorded on the 28th of February 2020, when the Santa Cruz Observatory had recorded 38.4 degrees Celsius. And this comes after the past few days also recorded temperatures of around 37 degrees Celsius. Meanwhile, the IMD's Coastal Observatory at Colaba recorded a maximum temperature of about 36.8 degrees on Monday, which was 6.2 degrees above normal. A heat wave alert is usually issued when two weather stations in coastal city record a maximum temperature of about 37 degrees Celsius for 2 consecutive days. The scientists at IMD predict that it will continue to be pretty hot and humid on Tuesday and Wednesday. The temperature has been on the higher side for the last few days due to the strong easterly presence, which is delaying the setting of a sea breeze. And this is going to last at least about 3 more days, as there is no possibility of rainfall in the days to come.
Drone footage of widespread flooding in Botswana following record rainfall in the semi-arid country over the last week. Officials on Monday said at least 9 people were confirmed dead, of which 6 were minors. More than 5,000 people have been impacted by the floods. In the capital, Gaborone, where the local dam overflowed, cars were washed away and properties part submerged. Roads, homes and businesses have suffered extensive damage. Meanwhile, most schools are expected to reopen on Tuesday after being closed for days, while electricity and water supply has been restored.
Kenya has increased security along its border with Ethiopia following a clash between Ethiopian fishermen and their Kenyan counterparts at the Omo River. The Turkana community from Kenya and the Dasaneh community from Ethiopia share common economic activities such as fishing. The incident has left several people missing and has caused widespread concern. More than 20 people are missing. If they were found dead or injured, it would have been easier to handle than the uncertainty we're facing now. Not knowing whether they are alive or dead creates a lot of anxiety, and that uncertainty hurts even more. The Interior Minister confirmed that the Kenyan government is working closely with Ethiopian authorities to locate the missing individuals. You see, the regional commissioner is here with us. Together, we are assembling a team led by the county commissioner who will travel to Ethiopia tomorrow to meet with local officials. We will collaborate with them to find and recover our people. Murkomen also announced plans to set up a border post to monitor all cross-border movement, ensuring thorough checks on those entering Kenya. Since January, the ongoing violence in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo has claimed the lives of around 7,000 people, Prime Minister Judith Suminwa Tuluka reported at the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva. The deadly conflict has left around 450,000 people without shelter after the destruction of 90 displacement camps. The advance of the M23 rebel group, which has captured key territories and valuable mineral deposits, marks the worst escalation in over a decade. Tuluka called on the international community to impose dissuasive sanctions as the region faces widespread displacement, summary executions, and horrific human rights abuses. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres condemned the devastating situation, saying that human rights are being suffocated around the world. The DRC government has faced criticism for its military strategy and back-to-back losses in North and South Kivu provinces.
On the third anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres warned that human rights worldwide are under threat by warmongers and autocrats. He also noted abuses linked to economics, technology, climate change, migration and gender.
We have our work cut out for us. Human rights are the oxygen of humanity, but one by one, human rights are being suffocated by autocrats, crashing opposition because they fear what a truly empowered people would do, by a patriarchy that keeps girls out of school and women at arm's length from basic rights, by wars and violence that strip populations of their right to food, water and education, by warmongers who thumb their nose at international law, international humanitarian law and the UN Charter.
Guterres was speaking at the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva on Monday. At the same session, the Council's chief warned of a very dangerous situation in a world increasingly dominated by authoritarians.
By some estimates, autocrats now control around 1/3 of the world's economy, more than double the proportion 30 years ago. Leaders cite national security and the fight against terrorism to justify gross violations. Hypocrisy, double standards and impunity have also played a part.
Volker said the system of global protections built in the years following World War II have never been under so much strain, and stressed the need to ensure that human rights and the rule of law prevail.
News: a massive data breach has rocked the U.S. Millions of sensitive records are now in the wrong hands. The full extent of the damage, however, still remains unknown. A cyber attack on DISA Global Solutions, a major employee screening company, has compromised the personal information of over 3.3 million people. Hackers gained access to social security numbers, credit card details, and government IDs. Who is responsible? How did they break in? Those questions all remain unanswered. DISA, which handles background checks and drug tests for some of America's biggest corporations, including 1/3 of the Fortune 500, has admitted to being the victim of a cyber incident with over 55,000 clients. The breach represents a big failure in data security. DISA's client list include 1/3 of the companies on the Fortune 500 And with over 55,000 total customers, the company is one of the largest employers screening active in the U.S. The leak represents a major breach in cybersecurity, particularly for a sensitive industry like that one. Visa said that the attack, which occurred on February 9th, 2024, was not noticed for 2 months, and that they could not definitively conclude the specific data procedures.
While markets remain volatile amid U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs onslaught, big tech giants seem to follow Trump's aggressive America First stance. The country is witnessing a surge in AI and semiconductor investments, with major firms committing hundreds of billions of dollars to expand domestic production. Apple has announced a $500 billion investment over the next 4 years. The plan includes a new AI server in Texas and the creation of 20,000 research and development jobs across the country. Apple's investment covers supplier partnerships, content production, and Apple TV Plus and manufacturing initiatives. Apple is also doubling its advanced manufacturing fund to $10 billion, with a major focus on semiconductor productions. The company has started mass production of its custom chips at TSMC's Arizona plant, a key move towards reducing reliance on overseas manufacturing. However, analysts note that Apple's pledge includes spending that was already planned, raising questions about whether this represents a true expansion. The investment announcement comes after reports of Apple CEO Tim Cook meeting with Donald Trump. Trump had earlier announced Apple's plan with no specifics on the investment details.
Yesterday, I had Tim Cook in the office from Apple. He's investing hundreds of billions of dollars. I don't know. I hope he's announced it. Hope I didn't announce this, but what the hell? All I do is tell the truth. That's what he told me.
Apple's announcement is part of a larger trend of AI and infrastructure investments in the U.S. SoftBank CEO Masayoshi Son committed $100 billion over the next 4 years aimed at AI-driven job creations. The Japanese tech giant, which pledged $50 billion in 2016, now plans to generate at least 100,000 jobs in AI and related fields. Trump also unveiled a $500 billion AI initiative called Stargate in partnership with Oracle, SoftBank, and OpenAI. The venture will start with 10 data centers under construction in Texas, aiming to establish a major AI computing hub in the U.S. Trump credits these investments to growing confidence in his economic policies. Meanwhile, Trump's tariffs continue to dictate volatility in global markets.
Headlines this morning, there is more confusion for millions of federal workers after a midnight deadline passed to respond to an email from Elon Musk. The email demanded workers to explain what they accomplished last week or be fired. NBC's Alice Barr covers the latest.
A new twist this morning after the midnight deadline passed on that controversial email asking government workers to explain what they did on the job last week. Department of Government Efficiency head Elon Musk posting overnight, quote, "Failure to respond a second time will result in termination." That after the Trump administration told the heads of federal agencies that responding was voluntary. And several departments dealing with classified information, including state, justice, and defense, told employees to wait or not reply, even as President Trump defended the demand.
What he's doing is saying, are you actually working?
A California lawsuit by a coalition of labor unions aims to block any firings connected to the email. Mark Smith represents Veterans Affairs nurses.
When I go to my own healthcare provider, I want that provider to be laser focused on my care. I don't want that provider to have to be worrying about, emails that they're getting from some unelected billionaire.
While at a town hall in Missouri, a large crowd confronted one Republican representative.
We are being discounted by those in Washington, claiming that we're the swamp and we're the fraud, waste, and abuse. No.
Lawmakers divided.
Asking people to justify their work, I think, is a reasonable step.
There is a way to do this that is proper, that is lawful, and also treats our federal employees with a little bit of dignity.
3 sources tell NBC News responses to the email would be fed into an advanced AI system to determine whether an employee's work is mission critical, leaving federal workers at a critical crossroads.
We're hearing from House Republicans that a group of them is set to meet with President Trump today, and some are planning to press for more information and more compassion toward federal workers after getting an earful from their constituents at town halls across the country.
Your national headlines now, and President Trump and French President Emmanuel Macron met at the White House. They talked about the war in Ukraine just 1 week after the Trump administration excluded European leaders from the start of peace negotiations with Russia. The French president said any deal to end the war must include credible security guarantees and must not amount to a surrender for Ukraine. President Trump expressed confidence Russian President Vladimir Putin will accept European peacekeeping terms.
Peace to endure in Ukraine and beyond, we need deterrence. I know that this House will endorse the principle of winning peace through strength. So starting today, I can announce this government will begin the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the end of the Cold War. We will deliver our commitment to spend 2.5% of GDP on defence, but we will bring it forward so that we reach that level in 2027. And we will maintain that for the rest of this Parliament. And let me spell that out, Mr. Speaker. That means spending £13.4 billion more on defence every year from 2027. But, Mr. Speaker, in the short term, it can only be funded through hard choices. And in this case, that means we will cut our spending on development assistance, moving from 0.5% of GNI today to 0.3% in 2027, fully funding our increased investment in defence. I want to be clear to the House. That is not an announcement I am happy to make. I'm proud of our pioneering record on overseas development, and we will continue to play a key humanitarian role in Sudan, in Ukraine, and in Gaza, tackling climate change, supporting multinational efforts on global health and challenges like vaccination. In recent years, the development budget was redirected towards asylum backlogs, paying for hotels. So as we're clearing that backlog at a record pace, there are efficiencies that will reduce the need to cut spending on our overseas programmes. But nonetheless, it remains a cut, and I will not pretend otherwise. We will do everything we can to return to a world where that is not the case and rebuild a capability on development. But at times like this, the defence and security of the British people must always come first.
Today marks 3 years since Russia invaded Ukraine. On that day, in 2022, the uncertainty was hovering in the air, as nobody knew whether Ukraine would be able to withstand against much larger and better equipped Russian army. Ukraine did survive, but thousands of lives were lost on both sides. And millions of Ukrainians have fled the country. They are unlikely to return. But unlike in 2022, Ukraine has now many allies, and over dozens of Western leaders came to the capital to express their support and commitment to financially support Ukraine in the war. It comes at a crucial moment for Ukraine amid the uncertainty of the further U.S. involvement and partnership with Ukraine. However, today Kyiv was reassured that many Western allies are still committed to help Ukraine in its fight for survival.
I will be meeting with President Zelensky. In fact, he may come in this week or next week to sign the agreement, and which would be nice. I'd love to meet him. Would meet at the Oval Office. So the agreement's being worked on now. They're very close to a final deal. It'll be a deal with rare earths and various other things, and he would like to come, as I understand it, here to sign it, and that would be great with me. I think they then have to get it approved by their council or whoever might approve it, but I'm sure that will happen.
Israel has called for complete demilitarization of South Syria, warning its new rulers against deploying their military south of Damascus. Referring to Islamist group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, which spearheaded the offensive that toppled Bashar al-Assad in December, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said his country will not allow forces from the HTS group or the new Syrian army to enter the area south of Damascus.
We will not allow forces from HTS or the new Syrian army to enter areas south of Damascus. We demand the complete demilitarization of southern Syria, including in the Quneitra, Dara, and Suwaida provinces, from the new regime forces.
Now addressing a military graduation, Netanyahu further added that the Israeli forces will remain in the buffer zone for an indefinite period to protect our communities and to thwart any threat.
In Syria, IDF forces will remain on the peak of Mount Hermon and in the buffer zone for an indefinite period to protect our settlements and prevent any threats.
Netanyahu's comments led to new concerns over the Israeli presence in the swathes of southern Syria as Syria's new leaders attempt to consolidate control after years of civil war. Further, Defense Minister Israel Katz added that Israeli forces have built 2 posts on the peak of Mount Hermon and another in some 7 more in other buffer zones to ensure defense and offense against any challenge. Netanyahu's government has been under pressure to protect Israelis living near border areas in the north. Katz said Israel will strengthen ties with friendly populations in the region, notably the Druze, a religious minority who live in both southern Syria and in Israel's Golan Heights, where Druze navigate their historically Syrian identity while living under Israeli rule. Netanyahu said Israel will not tolerate any threat to the Druze community in southern Syria. After the fall of the Assad regime in December last year, Israel announced that its troops were entering a UN-patrolled buffer zone that has separated Israeli and Syrian forces on the strategic Golan Heights since 1974. Israel seized much of the Golan Heights from Syria in a war in 1967, later annexing the area in a move largely unrecognized by the international community.